Hello and welcome back to another edition of the RockCast, a podcast by Rockhurst University that is for Rockhurst students, produced and made by Rockhurst students. Glad to have you back, and first-time listeners, welcome. Glad you could make it. No matter who you are, where you are, feel free to subscribe to the podcast, rate and review, all that good stuff so we can get more listeners out there. Really good content coming out, and would love to have more interaction with you guys out there. This week we put on our Instagram feed on stories, give us some topic ideas. So we've taken about 4 of those. And since we've been talking about the election, we'll hit that a little bit early. The election is, after all, mostly official, but we will talk about that and kind of where the country goes forward with that, where social media goes forward with that, and how all that is affected. And then we'll also talk about stuff at Rockhurst, like classes, clubs, sports, and the animals that are flying in the trees. But first, let's have everyone introduce themselves. Going clockwise on my screen. Jarrett, you are up first, sir.
Righty. Everyone, I'm Jarrett. I am a sophomore at Rockhurst from Chicago, and yep, that's me.
All right, clockwise would mean Vince is next.
My name is Vince Risqueta. I am a senior nursing major here at Rockhurst University, and I am the podcast resident coffee drinker.
And America.
My name is America Romo. I am a senior here at Rockhurst studying corporate accounting and finance.
Great. Now, before we get to the election, there was one topic that was sent in that was maybe a little too serious for the RockCast, and that had to do with Vince's hair game. How does he do it? How does he maintain it? I don't know who sent it in. Actually, that's a lie. I do. It was Vince. But Vince, since, you've asked yourself the question, maybe you'd like to, tell us about the lettuce up there. How's it?
Well, I mean, just helping my own ego by sending the suggested topic of my own hair. But no, it's my number one secret, other than one, genetics, but 2, I don't use shampoo every single time I shower. It's actually maybe only every 3rd time that I do. I kind of got that from my grandpa who lives in the Philippines. He's 80, still has a full set of jet black hair, and he never used any shampoo ever when he took a shower ever. So I only do mine every so often, and I still have a really healthy set of hair over here. So looking for longevity, less chemicals, the better.
Fascinating. I'm so glad you asked yourself that.
I just had to share that with our listeners over here. So
great.
Love to hear.
Good. A presidential candidate happens to be known for his hair. I don't know if he uses chemicals in that. Actually, we probably have a pretty good idea that there's something in there. But the election has been decided as much as it usually has been decided, and there's some drama going on afterwards. So let's just start with, was the outcome what you expected? Who wants to go? Who wants to take this on?
In terms of like the reaction kind of after, not really speaking to like who won, but kind of in terms of the reaction after, I think it was kind of expected. We kind of predicted that, in past episodes, that whichever side lost was not really gonna accept the results. We kind of figured that out. I think that was our 2nd or 3rd podcast over there. And so we kind of see that right now with the Trump administration's current lawsuits against certain states with how the votes were counted up. And so we're starting to see like a 2000 situation where we're going to be waiting for the courts to decide, okay, are we going to actually take this, legitly, or are we just going to go with what, we have with the results that were there by default? So.
Okay, so speaking of the outcome or the reaction to the outcome, anybody else surprised, not surprised?
I feel like as far as the actual outcomes, just as how Vince said it, I really wasn't surprised as much either. The only thing that did surprise me, I'd say, was maybe the idea that I guess I didn't really see a large uprising I wasn't anticipating a large uprising, but just the tension building up to the election. And a few days after November 3rd, when the polls started opening, I really did not see it going down pretty for anybody, even if the side won. So honestly, I'm a little bit surprised by, I guess it's been a lot more peaceful than just what I supposed it was going to be. The only thing I'm not surprised by, and as we talked about, in the past episode, of course, the tension is still going to be there. There's definitely you're going to have your memes for quite some time. And honestly, I think that's okay as long as people are not expressing things in a putrid way and not continuing to spread hate on other people, which is going to exist regardless of how long these things go on, regardless of whether this lawsuit goes through or is, rescinded by the general courts. That's not really the question. It's more so about the motive and what you're seeing there. And I think from a national sense, I'm surprised because it's a lot better than what it could have been. I could say that for sure.
I think that for the outcome, I kind of felt like it could go either way. So I think I would have, in a way, I want to say I'm surprised and not surprised. And I think that if it would have gone the other way, I would be saying the same thing, because I don't know. I would say I wasn't really surprised. I think what surprised me the most was really the impact of the mail-in ballots. That's kind of what really surprised me, because what we were seeing that Tuesday night it just completely changed, throughout the week. So I didn't expect there to be such an impact with the mail-in ballots, and especially the flip that some states made. I mean, it was really drastic. I didn't really see that coming. So if anything, I would say that's what surprised me, not really the outcome, because I did feel like it could go either way.
Okay. Before the election, we talked a lot about social interaction, especially on social media, and kind of things getting a little bit nasty here and there. Of course, that's what social media is in a lot of cases. How's it been since? Jared, I know you said things were a little bit more peaceful outside of the online world, but think about social media now, and how have things been, and is it getting better?
If we're talking from the perspective of social media, that is definitely the thing that has to change at some point, regardless of whether we like what we're seeing, regardless of, whether you voted for Biden, Trump, a libertarian candidate, or even Kanye. There's, as I said, memes are always going to be there. People are always going to try to romanticize what goes on, but there is always going to still be that level of, just putrid sense of hate that's pushed over social media. But at the same time, because that is something that I do think that I think we've all seen a lot of, regardless of who you support. I feel like we've all seen that a lot. And I say a way for that to change would be, hopefully, we do have it's November 16th. I want to say it's like halfway through January when Biden or whoever the new president will be actually gets sworn in as the president. I feel up until that point, you have to see not just the president on each side, President Trump versus Biden, or somebody say something specifically. I feel like it's going to take, the state representatives, it's going to take, attorney generals, it's going to take delegates to step up and just say something about, okay, well, maybe this election did not go the way I wanted it to, but regardless, it's a country, and what I want to have happen is what should be the sense for the entire nation. So in order for those things to stop on social media, especially Twitter, I really feel as if Twitter is the main stream for all the things that we're seeing. Somebody on there is going to need to lead a resurgence for a lot of people to step up and say, you know what, let's be mature about this. And regardless of who wins, regardless of this lawsuit, regardless of who you voted for, let's make sure that America is in a stable national sense.
Okay. Vince, America, any thoughts on that? Vince,
Honestly, personally, sorry.
That's okay.
Personally, for me, I haven't been as active on social media recently, just because of school. School has been taking over my life currently, a lot of tests. But what I have seen, I didn't think it, my opinion would be that it really hasn't been as bad as I thought. it was going to be, but perhaps that really just depends. I feel like we all have different feeds, so maybe we're only seeing what, obviously, like the people we surround ourselves with. So maybe someone else would disagree with me.
In terms of like, I know one of the biggest things that we talked about in the previous episodes about social media and spreading hate across your social media platforms. We talked a lot about, there's just a lot of just really aggressive stuff towards like people of different ideologies that we were seeing on people's Instagram stories and their posts, that sort of thing. Generally speaking, I feel like those kind of posts have gone down now that we have a decision. I mean, that kind of makes sense because there's not really a necessity for people to feel like they have to go and post that sort of thing out on social media. And I just think moving forward here, you know, not just with social media, but with the country in general, now that we do have a, how I put it, Biden won, depending on how the courts go, like kind of quasi-presidential, you know, victor over here. We can pretty much move on with the assertion that he is the victor in the president, or for the election. But I think moving forward as a country, I think we do need to start healing those, you know, wounds, especially on social media. You know, that's where it kind of starts, and start trying to come together. You know, I think breeding hate isn't going to help anybody. It's definitely not going to make somebody want to compromise or, you know, switch over beliefs for you. So I think, you know, especially starting on social media, that's where we need to start.
Okay. Can the country learn from what you just said there about, and as the others have said too, about not breeding hate, finding some kind of peaceful means to move forward? Is that how the country needs to move forward now? Or can this country survive kind of going with the pre-election mode of, I have to make my opinion extremely known, and then I have to counter this opinion with this, and just that back and forth? A lot of called it divisiveness. Is this just the way things are now, or can we get back? Is it even possible to get back to where we're all just sitting down kind of at the same table, either virtual table or not, and able to talk freely and cordially with each other?
I think moving forward, you know, with kind of how you define divisiveness over there, I don't think we should be moving forward, and I don't think we can move forward with that sort of line of thinking, because, you know, we're seeing it right now. Like, once you have, you know, one party in control of things for a while and nobody else wants to play with them, no one wants to compromise, then when things switch, it's going to be the same thing over with one side, you know, salty about, you know, not being included, not, you know, having a say, and they're just going to go try to ram through their policies through without, you know, concern for anybody else. And that just creates a pendulum where you just swing it from one side to the other and everybody being salty all the time. So I think moving forward, you do have to start breeding a culture of plurality, knowing that somebody can logically come to a different conclusion logically, and just because it's different than yours doesn't mean that they're an idiot or they're just not, or they're uneducated. No, most people are. It's just that with their worldview and their perspective, they interpret it this way and you interpret it the other way. So I guess the grand question is, how do we find a compromise between the two? Which is why our political system is set up the way it is. But in order to do that, we're going to have to start to learn how to, you know, play fair with each other again.
Would you agree, Jarrett or America?
I definitely agree with that. It's just because I'm not gonna lie, I'm very, very optimistic for anybody that has seen the way that I talk about things the past episodes, even today. That's just me. Even in the face of disaster, I don't just say that straight up, okay, the best thing is going to always happen, because, you know, this is America. Not everything is perfect. I understand that. But I do like to see the light at the end of the tunnel. I see that as the goal ultimately. And even though, you know, what Vince is talking about, and what a lot of us come to see as this idea of unity and being able to sit down at this table, that's what we want. That's, truth be told, healing needs to happen so that we can get there. My ultimate question, and the question that we all ask ourselves, is, will that actually happen? Is this something that's going to happen, you know, the next year, the next few months, next week? Or will it just evaporate into thin air? Before you know it, this division becomes something almost like an era, something that we might end up seeing. Because, you know, my fear is we saw how a disease, something that literally can kill anybody, regardless of your race, orientation, your political belief, COVID can take you out, regardless of what it is. It can take you out. And we've seen how even something like that can be made political. If a disease can be made political, then just imagine what else in life can be made political. Like, what is this going to look like? Are we going to have 4-year-old kids trying to hate on each other and they don't even understand politics or things that drive these decisions in general? So my question for it would be, that is what we need to see. We need to see that light at the end of the tunnel where we're reaching towards unity. And just the question of, will that happen? And I personally feel like that healing, I feel as if going forward, we really have to handle things within the next, honestly, month, within the next few weeks, because, you know, Christmas is going to come. We're obviously going to be away from school from next week or 2 weeks up until February. That's the plan right now, hoping that we don't experience a second wave of Corona. And worst comes to worst, let's say that we do. What then? Is that also going to be made political? Like, we really have to look into all these things, because if we really do want things to change, we can't keep acting the same, you know. And that is my fear, that even though I want these better things and we can talk about how to get there, are people actually willing to sacrifice their own political desires to get to what's best for everybody?
Mhm. I mean, I think both Jared and Vince really put that together. And yeah, I think I'm also really optimistic like Jared. And I think what makes me feel like that is that we don't really just have to hope for things to get better. We can act on it. And which I think is nice. I mean, that's really the only way we can get change. And I've seen there's been a couple posts that I have seen, you know, regardless of where you stand and who you voted for, but people saying like, oh, finally I can maybe tell the other, you know, like the other group of people who voted for this other person, the things that they have told me, or like I can finally say this or that. And I don't think that's the answer. I mean, I think that if you have been hurt by someone, the answer is not to just kind of like give them the same hate that you felt that they gave you. Like, we're not going to move forward. We're in the same country. It's not like, and I feel like that's been like the problem, that we're just been so divided that's why we can't move forward, because we just can't really see eye to eye. And the only way that we can see eye to eye is to try, maybe if you have been hurt by someone else, don't give them that same energy that they gave you. Maybe the only way that we're gonna like be able to move forward is if we're just kind to each other, and that's something we can do, and it's easy. I mean, being kind is free, and it's something that you can do. So that's kind of where I see us going. I think things can definitely get better, and I think I've already mentioned this several times, but now with the news that maybe there's going to be a vaccine possibly coming out soon, who knows. I really do think that there's going to be a huge difference when we are able to have those in-person relationships, because, you know, we're human beings and we're made to be with other people, and, you know, to give someone a hug. And I think that's why we've all been just so anxious, because we just are stuck in our home by ourselves all the time. And I think that when we are able to kind of meet again with those friends, family members, really, I do think that there's going to be a change.
Excellent. Being around people, being able to give someone a hug, being in class next to them, it has taken, I agree with you, it does seem like it's taken its toll, and I think that people are tired and they're anxious to move forward. So I really like the message you guys are putting out there. In regard to classes, that was a topic that we received from Instagram followers. And classes this year, as we've talked about, not like a typical year. A lot are hybrid, some are online only. Vince, I know you said almost all years with College of Nursing, Research College of Nursing, have been online. But if you can look at just the classes, and now let's take politics and shove it aside for a while, long while. Look at the classes at Rockhurst. how would you describe them to someone who might be interested in the school, or they're a freshman at the school and think, is this it? Is this what I'm going to get? Kind of where classes are right now in general, and when we are back to normal, what is it really like, and what do you like about them? America, if you wouldn't mind starting this one. I feel like we always leave you to the last on some of these, so I'm gonna pick on you first.
Yes, of course. Do you mean just like when times are normal? Is that what you're?
Yeah, when times are normal. I think the general question was more like, just tell me more about classes at Rockhurst. Now, it could be for a potential student, or it could be for someone on campus that's new there and they don't know.
Well, I think, classes, I guess I have to think a little bit about this, especially now with so many online classes. It's like, what was it like before this? It feels like it's been way too long. But I guess one of the things that I really liked about Rockhurst, and the reason that I decided to come here, was just for the smaller classes. I feel like that definitely was something that I was looking for, because I wanted to get to know all my classmates. And I think that I have been able to. As well as just really getting to know the professors. And personally, that's been one of the biggest things. I think it's very motivating when you know that your professor cares about you. And I don't know if other people say this at other schools, but I think, and maybe it's oversaid here at Rockhurst, but I just think it's so true how much your professors care about you. I mean, it's really, it's incredible. I'm not sure if I've already mentioned this, but it was I think it was 2 years ago. No, it was last year. I missed like one class, and then my professor, he emailed me and he asking me like if I was okay, like how everything was going. And I was perfectly fine. I just had I had something to do, but I don't know if that really happens at other universities. I feel like that's very rare for your professors to be so invested in you really succeeding in their class. That's not gonna it doesn't affect them like personally, I would say. I mean, you could say that they just come to do their job, but like I don't think that's true here at Rockhurst. And that would be the biggest thing. And one of the and that's what that's what I tell every student when I giving a tour, just how amazing the professors are at Rockhurst. And even now, I mean, with my professors now, they have been super understanding, like telling us, if you are having trouble, please email me. This is not the time to be stressing you out. So I don't know. I just think that's really incredible.
Kind of echoing what America said, I do think the professors are a really big strength for being a small school, particularly here at Rockhurst. I've managed to forge some really good relationships with my professors. I'm on a first name basis with more than what my senior year of high school me would have thought I would be on before I came to Rockhurst. That was kind of one of the biggest things I realized my freshman, like, wow, these people, like America was saying, like they actually care and they want to get to know you. And for all those prospective students listening out there, this is such a really good resource to a lot of different things that you can't even fathom right now. I've gotten extra scholarships based off of recommendations from letters from professors that I've gotten to know really well. I'm about to start applying for jobs here in December and January over break, and they're going to be on my resume as, character calls to make, just for them to speak on me. And I wouldn't have that if I didn't have that relationship with them. Kind of dipping onto my admissions office ambassador side over here, it's like a 12-to-1 or 13-to-1 student to professor ratio here on our campus. And that is so small on the national level. And this gives you so many opportunities to be able to get into relationship with those professors and allows them to get to know who you are, and you're just not another face in an auditorium of 600. And for the freshman students who haven't really known anything different here on campus, if your professor seems kind of standoffish, well, that's just because we're online right now and they haven't had the opportunity to see you in class. But once things start getting normal again, you're going to start to see these professors really do care about you.
I mean, the general message that I'm hearing is that, and it's definitely true, being somebody that came from a school, I am very outgoing, but I came from, Chicago. There's not many people from Chicago that go to Rockhurst or even knew about it in the first place. And I also didn't know anybody when I got to campus. So I knew that I was already going to be at a deficit. But one thing that definitely led me to come to Rockhurst in the first place was knowing that I was going to have that inclusive environment. So not just it being a small, student to faculty ratio, but from what I heard when I even went down and visited Rockhurst and seeing it in person, like, wow, like I can raise my hand in the classroom and somebody will call on me, as opposed to you're in a classroom, as been said, full of 200 to 500 people, and you're intimidated to even ask for help, and as a student, that's a liability. You need to have every opportunity possible in order to succeed. And Rockhurst does all of that and then some. With it being so small, with it being so inclusive, you have all those chances to not just be the best student that you can be, but to be the best person that you can be. And I feel like that's the difference between going to Rockhurst and going anywhere else, even if it is another, Catholic Jesuit institution, just like Rockhurst is. It's not the same. There is a very specific, intricate difference about Rockhurst that honestly spreads the name, that makes it different, still keeps it small, as opposed to some of the other Jesuit institutions that might be, anywhere from about 3,000 to 5,000 to 6,000 students. We have one in Chicago called Loyola, so I understand how that works as well. But when you come down to it, you look at how Rockhurst is with those classes, the way that it just allows you to immerse with that, like as you said, knowing your professors on a first name basis, as you said, just feeling comfortable, having somebody reach out to you when you're not even sick just because they saw you weren't there. How is somebody going to notice one student gone within 200? They won't. Like at Rockhurst, they really do care about you. And it's not that they don't care about you at other schools, but it's amplified at our community and it's made known that we want you to succeed.
Is there a class you've taken over the last, however many years each of you or all of you have been there a different amount of time? Is there a class that stands out to you as, if I could do one class over again, not to do better, but just because you enjoyed it so much, what would that class be? And kind of what was it about? What about it made it stand out for you?
I can go ahead and go. One class that really stood out to me there are technically two classes, but both the theater classes that I took for my arts credit here, it was between my freshman and sophomore year. I guess specifically it was Elizabethan theater that I took with Professor Matt Schmidly. Not gonna lie, definitely top 5 professors here on this campus. People who have taken this class can probably agree with me on that one. One of his big things when we were going over like the scenes that we were learning and performing on stage were, you're not an actor in a role on the stage. You're just a character living in the moment of that certain scenario or situation that the scene presents yourself with. With the script and all, yeah, whatever. But at the end of the day, you're there, you're present, and his best advice is just to be present in the moment. And then that's something that I have taken, and just applied to my daily life as well. Whatever I'm doing, I'm just going to put my mind, 100% to that instead of worrying about I have another test next week. I need to do this. I have work. How do I fit this? No, I'm just focused one day at a time because, as the days go on, it doesn't matter. There's no today. There's no, it's just today. And so just being present in the moment, that's something that class really taught me how to do, how to slow down.
It's such a hard question because there's so many classes and so many professors that I have absolutely loved taking their courses. But just to name a few, I think maybe my freshman year, I took Intro to World Religions with Dr. Walsh, and she's just a wonderful professor. And what I loved was that I just really loved learning about different religions, especially since I went to Catholic grade school and a Catholic high school, and she in her assignment, she implemented some traditions. So we had to do some of the traditions of the different religions that we were doing. Like when we were studying Buddhism, we had to meditate for one of our assignments for a whole week. I can't quite remember, but it was just a really, really awesome experience. Or when we were learning about Islam, we had to fast for one full day and kind of write about our experience. So I think that's maybe one of the classes that I really enjoyed. I also, maybe my freshman year, I had to take, I think, Comp 2. And I was very, very nervous because I thought it was going to be a class that I wasn't going to like, since in high school, I thought that I didn't really like English. It wasn't a course that I enjoyed, but it actually became one of my favorites ever. I took it with Dr. Forsberg, and I ended up taking another of her classes because I just loved her so much. And I mean, that's where I really want to see like the impact a professor can have in a class, because I went in thinking, oh, I'm dreading this. I can't believe I have to take this class, and absolutely loving it. I mean, so much so that I have even taken other English courses just because I want to, part of just my electives. And I would have never imagined that in high school, like just taking an English class for fun. That's something that I would have never even pictured myself doing. And which is incredible. I mean, it really was just not only the course, but just the professor, how much of an impact they can have in what you like. Like I said, there's too many classes now. I'm in a creative writing class that I didn't have to take. I'm taking it because I want to, with Dr. Brunnett, who is the loveliest professor ever, super understanding. That I don't know, we sometimes at the beginning of the class, she'll ask how we're all doing. I mean, there really is so many classes, but I think those couple my freshman year where I kind of went in not knowing anything and ended up loving it and completely changing what I wanted to do in my life, and kind of forming those relationships with professors.
I'd say for me, because I really enjoyed a good amount of my classes, even if some were definitely a struggle at some point. Like even through the struggle, I was able to embrace that. You know, I feel like the difference between me in high school and where I'm at now as far as a student was that when I did struggle, I would kind of just like, you know, turn into that shell, like, like I don't really want to interact with the teacher that much, even if they're a nice teacher. But I get to Rockhurst, and just the level of enthusiasm that I saw from my professors, like literally all of them. I can't even think of one that I thought was maybe shady or was maybe like faking it. Like I just didn't really see that, because I think you're always going to think about the bad apples. I never came across that personally. One that really got to me, just as Vince said, was Matt Schmidly. I'm a film acting minor, for those who don't know. So ever since I was on campus, I was doing a lot of work with, you know, theater and taking those classes. And those were some of the best times I've ever had. Like maybe even in life in general, just going through and doing these drills that were honestly just really, they were really funny, but at the same time, they actually made you like strategically and talented with what it is that he was trying to teach us. You know, it was to the point where we could have a lot of fun, but gain a lot at the same time. You know, and there was a lot of pride within that in theater, and the way that that community engaged with other people. Something about my improv class, it was literally improv. What was so fun about it was there were people that weren't even in the class that would come on Thursday, and they would just come into the class. Like literally, they would just start doing improv with us. It would go from 15 students regularly to on Thursday about 35, and we're all just in there just having a blast. It was hilarious, you know, in this classroom in the party barn with the see-through windows, seeing people walk by, and I would just go and knock on them and they'd have no idea who was there. Just a lot of this foolery that was just evident. I'm like, wow, how do you have this much fun when you're at college and still am able to get all of this out of it that you would like to as well? Just you went from that having a class that was more high profile to me having a Christianity class where we had many intellectual conversations, not just about the Christian faith, but I guess the outward lens towards Christianity, something that me going to a Catholic school my whole life, kind of like how America described, you don't really get that much of. So getting to hear all these different perspectives in the classroom, and then getting to also have fun and gain, you know, hone in on your talents as well, was honestly just the best part about classes. Like I can't even really say what was my favorite, but if I had to take them again, I'd say my Christianity class and any acting class that Matt Schmidly teaches, for that matter.
How often does Schmidly talk about a Super Bowl commercial?
Very often.
Does he?
Very often. He loves to talk about, oh my gosh. And he shows
That's
us, I
funny.
remember, if you guys have ever had, I haven't had it actually, but Minsky's Pizza, it's something down there in KC, I know for sure. He did a commercial with them once and it was really funny. And he just shows it to us all the time. It is really, really funny, but he loves himself, I'll say that.
That's funny. That's really good. I've only talked to him a few times. Seems like a great person. So right in line with what you guys are saying. So when I email Matt, or Matt, Professor Schmidly. Like I said, always really nice. Well, I email you guys when it comes back. Your signature lines are always really deep with all the stuff you're involved in. So one of the questions that came in was, tell us about clubs and extracurricular stuff. My headphones falling off. What kind of stuff are you involved in? What kind of stuff would you like to get involved in? Were you involved in anything like that? Brianna wasn't able to join us. She is involved in Voices for Justice, I know. If you know anything about that, or if you're in that, I think that would be interesting to talk about as well. But clubs and extracurricular stuff, go ahead.
I can start off. I've been pretty involved on my time at Rockhurst. I definitely have, especially my freshman year, that was a lot. And that's something I always recommend to incoming students, to literally just get involved in everything you can that freshman year. Go to every single first meeting, because you're going to meet a lot of people. And then after that, you can decide what are your interests. But I mean, you won't know unless you go to, that's what I did. I went to like every single first meeting of like everything that seemed even somewhat interesting to me. So my freshman year, I joined Student Senate, and I've been involved in it ever since. I've held several different positions throughout my time. It's a really great organization, because one thing that I always also say is that here at Rockhurst, it's incredible how much trust they give to, incoming freshmen. Kind of when I was in high school, I had this like mentality that you really can't have like a leadership position until you're maybe a junior, most likely until you're like a senior in high school. And here I was completely shocked when that wasn't the case, when as a freshman you were given that opportunity to be a leader. I mean, I guess not to sound cliche, Rockhurst is where leaders learn, but I think they really take that completely serious here. Just giving that responsibility. I remember I think it was my second meeting, we had to find like chairs for our committees, and I was giving committee chair for one of them, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I barely even know what Student Senate is, and I've already have like a somewhat, responsibility. And so yeah, it's a great organization. You get to meet a lot of different people from different majors. What else? I guess I'm also involved in DSP, which is Delta Sigma Pi. It's the business fraternity, since I'm a business major. So for all incoming students or even current students who are business majors, I definitely recommend it. It's really a great organization, because you get to meet other people, and it's just a nice way of getting to know people in your classes. People you can like study with. I've met really, really good friends through there. My second semester, I went through recruitment, and I joined a sorority, and it's been great. I really like it. I've met a lot of really, really good friends. What else? I don't know. It's just like, I was involved in SAV. I think all freshmen are involved in SAV our freshman year. And I liked it, but it is kind of, I didn't continue with that. And then I joined Ambassadors, which is also a really great organization. You get to meet a lot of different people. I do think that if you want to really kind of form those relationships with people outside of your major, then just joining things such as Ambassadors is a great way. I've met a lot of really cool people that I would have never even crossed paths with, even if it weren't for Ambassadors. I mean, just recently, I think it was 2 weeks ago, I met a senior. She is a science major, and I had never met her ever. And I felt like I knew everyone, but I didn't. And so, yeah, I just met her, and it was because I was working at the Ambassador and admissions that day, and we didn't have any tours, so I was just making packets. And so it was just really cool that even at this point, that I'm a senior, I'm still meeting new people, and it's been through the organizations that I'm involved in, and kind of getting to just meet a lot of, especially like incoming students. I love talking to the incoming students. And another great thing about joining organizations on campus is just getting to work with staff as well. It's been great, kind of forming those relationships like right from the start. So I'm sure Vince and Jared have a lot of things to say because they are very involved, I know.
Guess I'll take it. But yeah, she's right. I was very involved my junior and senior year going into high school, and I saw how, I guess, the positive impact of that, even though I wanted to start getting involved because I was definitely just a major athlete before I started really doing anything with the talents I had. But got through that, saw how, it looked good on the transcript. A lot of colleges definitely gave you leverage with that in terms of admissions. And I got to Rockhurst and I'm like, you know what? Why not carry that on, especially getting to Rockhurst and seeing they have all of these things to offer? It kind of took me by surprise because I knew there were going to be things to do at college. But like what Rockhurst has to offer was just crazy. I felt like there's something for everybody there, regardless of who you are, regardless of what your interests are. It's just a matter of, are you willing to, step out and get involved with it? And I think, let me think, what was the first club I joined? I think the first club I actually joined was Joyful Noise, which was singing choir at mass and during church, which sadly is something that has come to a halt recently due to COVID. But that was one of the most amazing things I did back at campus, just because you had all these people coming together. We would practice typically, every Friday morning at 8 a.m. sharp with the excellent Bill Kriege. And he would lead us in, music and just the things that we would establish going on from there, performing at mass. And honestly, it was just a community. We would do a lot of gatherings outside of that as well. So that's an organization I suggest for anybody that, even if you're not the most avid singer, that's okay. Just if you're just looking to get involved in some way, that's definitely a good one anybody can do for sure. That I'm involved in Black Student Union, which is definitely great to see how, even though Rockhurst looked not as diverse when I first got there, it definitely was, just because everybody in that group honestly immerses themselves with other clubs and organizations. So you'll see a lot of people that are in Black Student Union and Voices for Justice, like Brianna is, something that I'm like partially involved with. I do stuff with them as well. What's the other one? Active Minds. You'll see a lot of different things at Rockhurst. A lot of people are like crossway involved with certain organizations. Like they'll go to this meeting one week and they'll go to that one the next week, and with it being that small campus and with everyone, just wanting to get a piece of everything that's going on, it definitely supports that idea. I didn't get to the wave of SAB because I was doing so many other things, but I'm trying to think, what else did I do? Probably come back to me. But anywho, just as far as organizations in general, and if you are, a freshman, if you are even somebody that's considering coming to Rockhurst as, a senior in high school, maybe even a junior, just know that if you're looking to be involved, that this is not only the place where you obviously can, because you're going to have opportunities at whatever college you're looking at, but Rockhurst is a place that supports that. It's a place where you want to be involved, even if you might not have the same interests as other people. I personally felt as if I did not have the interest that I generally did up until this point, I still would have found a way to get involved, just because I saw a lot of other people doing it. I saw, just as America said, it's just a great way to connect with other people, get to familiarize yourself with the campus, the community, and honestly what makes Rockhurst the place that it is.
Kind of going off of Jared over there, I mean, we do have so many different clubs and organizations. What do you choose? It's honestly a really good problem to have, knowing that we have such a variety here. And we kind of introduced that to our new students right from like the first week during welcome week. We have a thing called the free stuff fair, which even for upperclassmen like me is still a great thing because I get a bunch of free stuff. It's where all the different student clubs and organizations can table, and you can go and talk to current members, sign up for their email list, put your contact information down. And just because you put your information down there doesn't mean you commit to anything. It's just, kind of dipping your feet, kind of everyone to see what you can get involved in. And it's always a fun thing every year, when we're doing that, because it's honestly hard to find someone who isn't involved in an organization at Rockhurst, and it's probably harder to find someone who isn't involved at all. And again, honestly, a really good problem to have here on our campus. Another thing that we haven't really brought up yet, Mira kind of touched on it with our main sorority. I'm a proud Greek man here on our campus, and I cannot if you get me started on our Greek system here, I think I'll talk to you all day about it because I really do love it here. I am very heavily involved in my fraternity here. I was our recruitment chairman for a while, just finished my term as our external vice president. In the interim between those two, I was our PR social media chairman. And just the Greek system that we have here on a campus is just a really strong culture compared to, I feel like, other universities. You don't really have like the typical, frat stereotypes that people like to label on each other's heads. We don't come after each other, with malicious intent on social media or anything like that. We're just one big happy Greek community here. And a big part of that is the way we recruit. Both fraternity and sorority life recruit. It's called Deferred Recruitment, which takes place in the spring. So that first week you come to college, you're not already putting a label on your head before you even have a chance to figure out who you are in college. We give you that 6 months in the first semester where you can kind of get your feet wet, see what the organizations are like, see what you're like and how you develop, getting on your own feet, establishing yourself with your own foundation as you instead of the organization or the fraternity sorority that you join that organization. And so it's a really strong, positive Greek culture here. And I could not recommend it less to anybody.
And I also want to point out that if that's something that for incoming students, if they are not interested in fraternity or sorority life, that it is perfectly fine, because I have so many friends that are not involved in that, but they are involved in so many other organizations. It's a great way. It really is more so, it's not like everything. It's not like the only thing that you're going to do. Which might be the case, especially at bigger schools where you kind of have that recruitment like right away. So really all your friends are in your sorority or your fraternity. Here you kind of have the opportunity to make all these friendships before you even join. So that means you're really just gaining more friends or more relationships. But if that's something that you're not interested in, it's not going to make it or break it here at all. Like there's so many other things that you can do. And so I just wanted to make that point for people who maybe are like, that's not something that I'm interested in. Would I still be like well known on campus, or like, can I still be very involved? And you absolutely can be.
And I love that aspect of Greek life too, because those, just because you have 3 Greek letters in your Instagram bio or not, doesn't make or break your identity here on campus, even for the people who are in Greek life, because we are so involved in so many other different things. It's just one other part of your identity here on campus.
Do any of you play sports, intramural sports, or Jarrett, did you come down to play a sport? Or one of the other topics was sports, so I'm segueing into that. I know intramurals have been going on this year, I think, a little bit, but anybody sports?
Yeah, from what I've heard as far as intramurals, like I'm back home in Chicago, so I'm doing online for the year, but I stayed in contact with a decent amount of people. I've heard intramurals are still going on. If you played in high school and you're not involved, definitely take advantage of it, because honestly, there's so much. Oh my gosh, we take intramural sports too seriously sometimes. Speaking from the perspective of the team that won the basketball intramural championship last year, and I'm not gonna lie, that was mainly because we had a varsity player that could not play due to his transfer ineligibility, but we still won. Needless to say, still won. So I'll take that politely. But anywho, it's a big thing, and it's funny for me because, as I said, I was a big time athlete in high school. I was recruited for baseball and volleyball. So up until this point, it's very surprising. I still think about it sometimes, how actually I came to college in general, not playing a sport, for an official team. I'm not playing baseball at Rockhurst. We don't obviously have a volleyball team, but intramurals was something I definitely got involved with at the start. And that was also a way for me to help just get to know people, upperclassmen, just get to know a lot more people that were, involved in Greek life, because they tended to do a lot of things together, and then we'd all intermingle. That's definitely a great thing. And on top of that, so that's if we're just talking about intramurals. One thing we did my freshman year was me and a few of my best friends, whenever the basketball games, it would be just a few of us specifically, but we would always just go crazy. We kind of had a little bit of a bad reputation with the refs because we would always mess with the other team's players. Like, we would always get right in front of where they were scoring at and just go absolutely insane. And when it's in a gym like in the combo where it's not jam-packed, you can hear everything and everyone very clearly. So if you're talking about someone while they're shooting free throws, they're going to know you're talking about them. And so honestly, sports at Rockhurst, you have to get there, to really understand that. I know for many of the freshmen, due to COVID, even though you're already there, you haven't been exposed to that yet, but you will soon. And honestly, it's a culture that I think you'll be very pleased by, to say the least.
I'm bad at ball sports, so that's why I ran cross country in high school, but I still did intramurals heavily my before nursing school during my underclassmen time here at Rockhurst. And no matter if you are like a retired athlete or you're bad at ball sports like me, there's different like leagues that you can join, different sports you can play, just with your friends, just for fun. Just another thing you can do extracurricularly outside of campus. Everything that I have to say has already been said by Jarrett, but I wanted to point out, like, yeah, you don't have to be good at sports in order to participate in them and have fun. So always recommend joining up.
I know this year there's not a lot of varsity sports going on. Obviously, Jarrett, you had your experience at basketball games there. Did you ever do the fat head things, big heads? Did you ever get those?
Stickers?
You know what I'm talking about? No, like, okay, I guess fat heads are the stickers that go on the walls, but
Yeah.
like D1 and stuff, they're holding up the big heads.
Oh, yes. That's very interesting. I'm gonna have to either invest in that my junior year or tell some people to do that this year. I don't know what the maybe Vince might know, maybe I don't know, because I do know they are having a basketball season. But to what extent are people allowed? I think they will be. I mean, I don't know yet. I do know we definitely did not do that. We didn't have, those big fat heads of people. We definitely could have. That would be hilarious, and I would love to do that. I don't know how I never thought of that before, but that will be happening at some point. I can guarantee you that.
Gotcha. I think it was Kentucky, or I don't know, someone in the SEC, some student behind the goal had a big head of himself, and he was making a face, and then he was making the same face, so he's holding up the whole inception thing. Anyway, do you miss Vincent, America? Did you ever go to games, or do you miss it this year, having it not being an option? Or could sports be bigger on campus, or is it just right?
There's definitely room for sports to be bigger here on campus. It really just depends on just the mood of the student body, if they want to come out or not. What I do, I'm going to miss though, like, I'm not sure what the regulations are going to be for basketball in the basketball season this year, but me and my friends, and then a lot of the guys in my fraternity love going out to go support the basketball team for their games. That was one thing that we all really enjoyed to go to, because it kind of felt like it was going back to, like a high school basketball game, just with a really rowdy crowd. Everybody in the crowd knows each other sort of thing. And I remember there's one game specifically last year that, like, I know it's probably not going to happen and we won't be able to get, it was called like Pack the House, is when we played Benedictine College and reignited that rivalry again last season. And the gym was like chock full, the biggest like crowd I've seen, at my time at Rockhurst so far for a basketball game. And just like that energy and that camaraderie between like the students here at Rockhurst is something that definitely we're probably not going to have this year. Definitely not packing it as tightly as we had for that game. But yeah, that's definitely something that gonna be missing out on this year.
You mentioned Benedictine. We got tagged on something on Twitter where some student at Benedictine was writing about going to Rockhurst, and the Rocky Hawk costume was like lying on the ground, and someone walked by and said, "Are you wearing that today?" And he's like, yeah, and put it on, and ended up running out of the building with it and diving into a Volkswagen van and then being driven off to Benedictine. And I guess he still has part of the costume or something. So I told him we'd be in contact. So if we're going to do that Benedictine thing, then obviously we have to steal their mascot costume. As a staff member, I never said that though.
Eye for an eye, right? So
nice.
I see what you're saying. It will be taken care of accordingly.
Wink, wink. All right, and then last topic of the day, very short topic. We began with Vince's hair, and we're going to end with squirrels. Squirrels on campus was a topic that was sent in. Are there more squirrels? Are the squirrels nice? Have you ever had issues with the squirrels? We have like, I think it's 500 some trees on campus of varying ages, and obviously in the quad, there's squirrels everywhere, and they're eating their nuts and leaving their remains all over everything to walk on. But squirrels on campus, not sure the direction here, but we'll fulfill this. This is the topic.
I love me some campus squirrels. They are great. They do not care because they've been just lived their whole life with people going around campus. You're gonna walk right up to them. They're just gonna look at you and just keep going on their merry way. Actually, my favorite thing that happens with them, you'll just be walking around the quad and one of them will drop from 100 feet in the air because they lost his footing on the huge tree that we have on campus. They're the funniest thing. Just squirrel drops down, looks at you. That's just how they are on our campus. I don't know if I get other campuses because I don't have that experience, but I just love the ones here at Rockhurst.
Like I mentioned before we began, recently I feel like there has been a lot more squirrels than normally. Last Wednesday when I was walking to class, there was like, I think I counted them. It was behind Conway, and there's like 7 all in like the same general area, which I never had seen. I mean, I always see squirrels when I walk to class, but I had never seen so many together. And like Vince mentioned, it's really funny because they don't care about you. They don't run away. They just like pretend like you're not even there, and they just keep on living their life, which I think is really funny. They just own the place, basically.
Personally, I feel that the way that, and why that is the way that it was. I remember hearing from people, oh, the squirrels are funny. And I'm like, okay, because I've always thought of squirrels as a relatively goofy animal, to say the least, in general, before I even came to Rockhurst. But coming to Rockhurst and seeing that myself and just seeing these squirrels, I remember just sitting down with somebody, we were having a really like intricate conversation. And this squirrel, when I tell you, was sitting on the table, completely unbothered by us. And I'm just like, are you serious? Like, it was just sitting there. It did not care that we were there. And they love the pergola, which for those of you that don't know, the pergola is that little section right next to the bell tower that, well, when it's summertime, you can see the green ivy on it. Really pretty, few picnic tables. Yeah, they love that place a lot. I personally feel as if the reason why the squirrels are so, let's say, interactive is because how we have the quad, that large grass area in between Van Akron, Cedric, and then Massman, and then Conway. When you have that, I think that large green space and a lot of big trees in that area as well, you're going to have animals of any kind congregate. So I feel as if that's why there's a lot of squirrels there, and then just why they choose to be the way that they are, I don't really know. But it's very funny. It's something that I don't think any of us will ever have an answer to for why these squirrels act the way that they do. But it's honestly just another staple of the Rockhurst community, to say the least. Like as Vince said, we love us some squirrels. We do.
It's crazy. These squirrels are actually like super well traveled. Back at like I ended up taking bio too, even though I'm a nursing major. This is back when I was thinking about switching my major. Didn't, whatever, different story. I ended up taking bio too, and it's very like animal and environment based. And Dr. Chalaha over in the science department was like, we were talking about, I don't know how we got to the conversation of campus squirrels. Apparently, the biology department did a study where they tagged a few of those squirrels just to see like how far they were able to go. And some of these squirrels have made it as far south as 435 from our campus. For people like not knowledgeable about the area, that's like a solid 15-minute drive straight south of Rockhurst. So these squirrels were getting pretty far. So I don't know why they're going all the way down there. They feel like they need what they have. So adding to the Rockhurst squirrel lore over here.
Awesome. I love it. On that note, on squirrel lore, we will conclude this episode. Thanks everyone for listening. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, and obviously on YouTube, where you can watch. And at one point, Gabby, who runs our social media, popped on because we were supposed to have a meeting at 3:30 that was canceled, but she popped on anyway, I guess just to say hi. Jarrett, you were talking. Didn't want to interrupt.
Was so funny.
In case you were wondering who that was. Her face when she realized what was going on. Oh, shoot. Yeah. So I have to be nice to her, though, because she promotes this on social media. So say hi to Gabby, social media. So for Jarrett and America and Vince and Brianna, wherever she is, I'm Chad Schnarr. Have a great one, everyone. Thanks for joining us.